I wanted to come on, and it's been 2 weeks since our mom was taken, and I just wanted to come on and say that we still have hope, and we still believe. And I wanted to say to whoever has her or knows where she is that it's never too late.
I got nightmares in my head, I fear thoughts build up until I can't hear. My mind fills up into a creature, and it haunts me somewhere much deeper. I got nightmares in my head, I fear.
Understandably, the worry, the anxiety, the raw pain of this ordeal is etched all over a daughter's face. She's ashen, she's croaking, she's laid bare.
To whoever has her or knows where she is.
We see some emotion slipping through when Savannah sort of bites her tongue at the mention of knows where she is. This is because saying those words triggers a particular image in Savannah's mind, one that is likely distressing and one that she's trying to hold back, as one does when one tries to maintain a strong upper lip, or one admonishes oneself to bite one's tongue and not reveal what one is thinking or feeling. So when Savannah says whoever has her or knows where she is, she's keeping another, unfortunately not very good option open as well. Because the issue is also, even if Nancy isn't alive, the family still need to find her, still need to get closure. If it is the latter, I doubt whether the perpetrator is going to want to provide any assistance, but you never know. This appeal might pull at some heartstrings.
It's never too late. And you're not lost or alone.
And then there's that same sort of movement of her lips, the sort of biting of her lips, where she says, you're not lost or alone. And you can imagine what is going on in Savannah's mind when she says that, because very likely she is feeling quite lost and alone, and so is her mother. And so this is quite an extraordinary gesture under these circumstances to provide a kind of comfort to someone that is really, in a way, her enemy in the situation, someone who is her opponent in the situation. In other words, she's sort of reaching out in a kind of a gesture of love or even friendship, and trying to comfort this person and reassure them and say, you know, if you do this, it's not too late, you're not alone, and, you know, we kind of believe in the goodness that's in your heart kind of thing. Now, the "it's never too late" reference is an important reminder that the perpetrator does still have an opportunity to mitigate his own situation. That's even if Nancy isn't alive. But even if Nancy is still alive, then that is a real invitation he needs to consider. It's important to stress here that Savannah is doing this not to communicate with us, but with them. There is a chance, admittedly a slim one, that Nancy is still alive, and also a chance that this incident could still be resolved by appealing to the goodness in the abductor to return Nancy. Now, that may seem very unrealistic at this point, and yet we do know of instances of this, of someone being abducted and actually the situation being resolved, with a person coming back alive and no real harm done, such as in the abduction of 4-year-old Cleo Smith from a campsite in Western Australia 5 years ago by this man. Actually covered that case on this channel.
Tonight, this dramatic rescue of a 4-year-old girl who vanished while camping with her family. She was missing for more than 2 weeks. The entire country was following the search. Investigators were losing hope of finding her alive, but they now have. And
the abductor in that case, Terrence Darrell Kelly, who had no connection to the family, was arrested and later sentenced to 13 years. Cleo was found safe and unharmed on day 18 of her disappearance. We are on day 16 of Nancy Guthrie's disappearance, so we're not quite there yet. Elizabeth Smart is another example, and you can watch her astonishing story on Netflix right now. But there couldn't be a greater contrast to Savannah Guthrie appealing to her abductor and the almost psychopathic glee we see on X related to this case, such as this, and this, and this. But there has also been some self-awareness filtering through, like this from Ellen McNamara. She says, the Guthrie case is an example of how traditional media operate versus bloggers and true crime sleuths. Until someone is arrested, we don't put their info out there for psychos to have access to. And that word is really appropriate, because there are psychos out there. And they think this is a chance to kind of have fun. It's hard, but I try not to judge. All of us are at different stages of different journeys, and some can only apparently respond to another's trauma by laughing at it or by making jokes about it. I think it just reveals the level of sophistication. Some can only respond to it by getting in getting up on the bandwagon and making it even more traumatic by sending in fake ransom notes and actually trying to profit out of it, not only in a cynical way, but actually in a criminal way. But also by identifying people that you strongly think could be a suspect. That's defamatory as well. And so you have others responding by blaming. Others take it on as though it's their own, which is perhaps even taking on too much. Besides the slander aspect, a lot of it is neither right nor wrong, although I would say some of it is more or less appropriate. But what it does expose, I dare say, is in some cases our humanity to our fellow man, and I would say, I'm not sure if that's most cases, but in others, our crass, cruel inhumanity to our fellow human beings, even when we are gathered around the water cooler of this case for the express purpose, ostensibly because we care about someone's missing grandmother. Do we really care? Do we even know how? So I often find just examining all of these different reactions, it does give us an idea of who we are collectively, who we've become. And although I think there is a time and a place to clamor and criticize about the media circus and the social media going on in true crime, I don't think really that time is now while Nancy's still missing. I think there will be time for reflection. I think now, while we are still searching for her, we need to figure this out, not figure out and blame one another kind of thing. I will say, should anyone really be so surprised that this case is so high profile, given the media landscape, given the social media landscape, and given Savannah Guthrie's prominent place in that media ecosystem? I think what is surprising is what's going on within that and how it's becoming more and more unhinged. What makes it all the more ironic is that Savannah herself hasn't made a spectacle of herself, given she hasn't given interviews via her own network. Instead, her appeals have been brief and discreet, raw and real, quite dignified, I would say, on her own platform on Instagram. And who can blame her for being authentic, given the all-too-real nightmare she finds herself in? Anyway, in this analysis, I want to offer my own dose of reality to this case. Before we get to that, if you haven't subscribed, please do hit the thanks button, and let's get started. So this is going to be a little bit of a reality check on what many of us think when we think about abductions.
Officials have processed fingerprints and DNA evidence, including a glove found on a side of a road near Guthrie's home. The FBI says the glove appears to match those worn by a masked man outside her front door on the night she disappeared.
Now, in spite of the legacies of colossally influential cases like John Benet Ramsey and Madeleine McCann, the reality is that abductions, certainly in America, are rare. According to the Associated Press, the vast majority of people who are reported missing are believed to be runaways, and so they are not kidnapped and they are not abducted. And that's a question that's been surrounding this case. Is this case a true kidnapping or even a true abduction, or something else kind of going on? Also, of the 530,000 missing person records that were entered, there were just 90,000 cases that remained unresolved on that list, but many of them were still going back decades. And so roughly 95% of the hundreds of thousands of cases filed, only 1% were actually listed as abducted. Now what this means is that most abductions are runaways, and those that aren't are typically abductions of children, and they are almost always committed by family members, and they are often resolved, right? It's even more rare for someone to be abducted by a stranger. Of that 1% of those abductions, it's very rare to be a stranger. Also, in those very rare abductions we do see that involve strangers, it tends to involve non-white people, and disproportionately so. And so Nancy Guthrie is a huge anomaly in the sense that she's a white person, she's an elderly person, it's a stranger abduction by the looks of things, and this makes it all very, very unusual. It makes the Nancy Guthrie case a huge anomaly in almost every category if it is an abduction. And I think this brings back this possibility that what we're dealing with was actually a burglary or home invasion that went horribly wrong. And the real question is, after that point, that night, has it gone horribly wrong, and is there a chance for it to still be resolved in some way? And it's that chance that Savannah Guthrie's appeal is appealing to, all the way here where we are on day 16. Anyway, we do hope, if it can be resolved in some kind of satisfying way, a happily ever after way, that is going to happen. If there is a chance, then believing that may have some value. Anyway, I'm not going to take it further than that. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you guys next time.